Y'all probably didn't realize I taught Carol how to sing. That's just a little joke. We have great men who are here with us this weekend who are helping us in our worship and commencement. Dr. Anthony McCollum, pastor at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Columbia, South Carolina. Been there at least 10 years. I've had the opportunity to go down and be with his church a number of times. He's even let me preach 2 or 3 times, and wow, what a great congregation. But definitely attributed to his tremendous leadership in that congregation. He's definitely a brother and a friend of this seminary and a friend of our family. And likewise, Dr. Norman Sanders, who's going to come and speak just a little bit later. A tremendous man, lived for the Lord all his life, served Billy Graham Evangelistic Association for 30 years, does the prison ministry now. Both these men will be coming and speaking, and we look forward to hearing them gladly. And first of all, Dr. McCollum will be coming, and then I'll say just a few words, and then Dr. Sanders.
To our distinguished faculty, to the graduates of this fine and distinguished institution, we will come with words of encouragement as you commence on this Lord's Day. The word in your hearing comes from Matthew 4 and verse 19, when it has been recorded, and he said unto them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Here you will find, in this strange and unique pericope, Jesus preparing to begin his earthly preaching ministry. After a 40-day and night test, he says in verse 17, "And from that time he began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." And Jesus, verse 18 says, as he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, found 2 brothers, Simon Peter and his brother Andrew, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Here we find, graduates, that Jesus was preparing and selecting disciples to become a part of the ministry. Jesus preparing and looking for these distinguished men who were already working in their field of expertise. And he had already met and discussed his itinerant ministry with them, and it is clear that Jesus was calling these men to make a career change. Still work, but make a career change. Christ's instructions to these men who were fishers, he says to follow me. Deuteronomous mode, which simply says, come after me. The invitation presupposes a physical, but yet a following of this unique and strange young preacher named Jesus. The expression must be understood to you and I this evening, this morning, as a summon to discipleship. Jesus was inviting these men to join him in a mentoring relationship. You and I are called to follow his teachings. You and I are called to the mandate of his oral instructions. And the promise of the attachment to this instruction that Jesus says to follow me was, and I will make you fishers of men. So I leave you this morning to the graduates, as Jesus says to you and to I, let us go fishing. And you leave here this evening Jesus says, let's go fishing. And as you go fishing, you got to have patience. You got to have endurance. And you got to know how to bait your hook. He said, let's go fishing. Follow me, and I'm going to show you how to fish. And when you learn to fish, as the others will come behind me, know you must be patient. You will have to fish for those whom you may not be comfortable with. You will have to go fishing for the prostitute. You will have to go fishing for the drug addict. You will have to go fishing for those who are troubled and weary. You will have to go fishing for the backslider. You will have to go fishing for those who do not know the Lord in the free pardon of their sins. You will have to go fishing to those who may say some vulgar and rude and very nasty things about the faith that you are called to defend. But Jesus says, be patient, and if you wait, and if you take your time, she says, stay in this race. Stay in the boat and keep fishing. Follow me, and I will convert all of you and I to be fishers for me. To God be the glory. Amen.
Jesus said, follow me, I will make you fishers of men. I want to speak just a moment about where Jesus said, I will make you. We are a work in process. Jeremiah chapter 18, God said to Jeremiah, go down to the potter's house. I want to show you something. I want to show you the potter and how he works with the clay. The potter is working with the clay. He's almost finished, but then all of a sudden the vessel is not exactly what he had in mind. So he begins to work with the clay. He reconstructs, he works, he refashions, he redevelops. And all of a sudden, as he works with the clay in his hands, the vessel is starting to look like what he wants it to look like. And God says to Jeremiah, this is what I can do with my people. This is what I can do with Israel. I can remake them, and I will. Sometimes the remaking and the redeveloping and the valleys and the discipline and the education and all the process that goes through to get us there may not be that pleasant. There are the unpleasantries of life. There are those situations of discipline and reconstruction that's not always that much fun. But we're in the process. And each and every one of us here today, if we will submit ourselves to God, He will continue to work in our lives, shaping us to be the people that He wants us to be. I heard years ago that Ruth Graham was in some heavy traffic. She was going through construction, the barrels, the lights, all that you see on the highway. And then when it was over with, there was a sign that said, at the end of all that work, end of construction, thank you for your patience. And she thought that was funny, and she said, I want that on my gravestone. And it is. I've been down to the Billy Graham Library, and I've seen where Ruth Graham, Billy Graham's wife, is buried, and there on that rock, a very simple rock, it says, her name, end of construction, thank you for your patience. You see, God is still working within us, and some of you are really inspiring me here today because I've met some of you that are 75, 77, 80 years old, and you're graduating from a program. We've had one student about 94 years old to finish this program, another one around 91, and a number of students in their 80s. So those of you who are 60 and 70, you have still plenty of time to do another program. And I mean, it's hard telling what God's going to do with you. It sort of reminds me of this old country preacher one time. He said, you know, I ain't what I want to be, and I ain't what I'm going to be, but thank God I ain't what I used to be. Now, he didn't have a major in English, but he had it down right. His life was a process, and we are all in the process. I heard Bill Gothard say 30-some years ago, please be patient. God is not finished with me yet. And God is not finished with you yet. He is shaping you. It's hard telling what you're going to become. Some of you are going to become, some of you already are. but people just don't know about it. But some of you are going to become some of the greatest preachers in the world. God's going to use you in a church someplace that's going to explode. And some of you you have great ministries already in education or administration or counseling or camp ministries or evangelism. Some of you are planting churches and starting churches everywhere. And some of you have very unique ministries that are very unique, but God has planted you in that ministry and you continue to grow. So I want to say to you today, don't feel stuck. Don't ever feel stuck, because if you'll just be faithful over what you're doing right now and continue to plant and water and allow God to give the increase, it will be amazing as to get what will happen in your life and in your ministry. Just don't give up. We had a good example in our own household. We have a son that's in the Army. He's out in the desert right now in Southern California, around Fort Erie, I believe is the name of the camp, and he's going to be there for 30 days. In 2010, we all sort of decided together that he was going to enlist in the military. He had one problem. He was about 60 pounds overweight. And so the enlistment officer said, this is not going to work. So we all had to go to work in our house, and that meant every meal for every week for 12 months, 52 weeks. Every day, every meal, it was 300 or 400 calories, 500 calories per meal. I mean, we had to measure it out. Now, here's a guy that was 60 pounds overweight, been eating a couple of pizzas, here and there, whatever he wanted to eat. So this was really tough. Not only did we have to get the food portions down, but we had to get the exercise in because he wasn't used to walking a mile. Make a long story short, after 52 weeks, he lost 60-some pounds, went from like 260 to 187, went from limping along, walking a mile, to running 2 miles in 16 minutes, and gained entrance, made it through boot camp, the school, and is doing okay. But and he still has hurdles, we all do. But it just shows you what a human being can do and what we can all do when we work together to accomplish something. Friend, it's amazing what you're going to do with your life. And whether you are 30 years old or 75 years old or 100 years old, Jesus said, I will make you. He is making you. You're not done yet. You're not finished yet. I would suspect that Joseph thought it was over with. When those low-down brothers did to him what they did and took that coat away from him and put him in a pit and sold him into slavery, I'd say he was pretty downcast and filled with despair. Spending his life as a slave in a foreign